Dancehall is full of many artists with loyal fan bases who would either ride or die for them. But there are some fans who take this to a whole new level, even to the point of being willing to take life. And these are what we call cult fan bases. And there's no better example of this than the one we have ranked at number 5, the Gaza fans. Now, despite the fact that times have changed, there was a time where this would have once been the indisputable number 1, as Vybz Kartel used to rule the entire Caribbean all on his own, with his only competition being the other equally cult-like fanbase, the Gully Side, led by legendary musician Mavado. And two cults beefing looks like nothing but an absolute bloodbath. These fans took the music so far that they literally went into the streets and started committing crimes on behalf of their artists. These crimes include assault, shooting at concerts, vandalisms, and of course murder. They were even going outside of schools to sell merch to literal children of the other artists with their heads decapitated. And the only reason the beef ended was because the Prime Minister had to personally intervene and get the artists to come forward and tell the fans to stop beefing. And guess what? The first time it didn't even work, so they had to do it again years later. However though, like I said, it's been a long time, and since then, not only has Vybz Kartel transitioned into more of a legacy act, promoting mostly positive energy and keeping the culture alive, but him and Mavado are now friends. So not only has the beef ended, but most of that fan base is probably well into their 40s with children by now and have better things to do with their time. However, a cult fan base that's still very much active and has the youth fighting to actively defend his name at every chance is none other than Genocide, aka the Massacre fans. Coincidentally being a protege of the Gaza camp, Massacre's fan base started out as a subsidiary of Cartel fans but grew over the years to become its own thing. These people swear up and down that Massacre is the greatest thing to ever touch a microphone, and any mention of his name will leave your comments filled to the brim with crocodile emojis. Not only do these people not play about their artists, but the most important part of this is that separate and apart from any social media antics, they actually stream his music more than pretty much anybody else in dancehall. And so every song he drops eventually streams well enough to become a hit, meaning that even though he mostly stays out of drama and isn't in the headlines every day, when he drops, it actually means something, which is more than I can say for most people. However, there is another set of fans that are somehow even more vocal, dare I say rabid, about their artists. So rabid in fact that when I tell you some of the things I've seen, you'll wonder if there is actually a real cult behind this individual. And those are none other than the Skippa fans. Skippa fans are literally some of the loudest, most vocal individuals you will see online. These are the types of niggas you will literally see having an entire highlight reel on their profile with their face covered, black and white filter, and nothing but Skippa's music at the top and a red balloon emoji in their bio. It got so bad that at one point we all had at least one brethren who would post Skippa on him status daily. Send that person this video, we're talking about you. And listen, from the moment I started seeing so many people with pictures of Skippa as their literal DP, I knew it was a cult. However, it never really clicked for me how deep it went until I saw a video, and I kid you not, of a random man coming up to Skippa's car and saying, and I quote, "Yo, artist, me just want you know say, me that literally kill for your dog. Me that literally take a man life for you." And it was so long ago that I wish I could find the video. But I had to ask myself if this man even has this level of dedication to his own children. Not to mention that many of these fans only listen to one artist, him, and maybe some AI Millie. And if you speak about him in any type of way, just know that your comment section will be flooded to the brim with moon emojis. For anyone not paying attention to dancehall in the past 2 years, you probably have no idea when or how this formed, but trust me, you will see it sooner or later. The next fan base though is one that's actually been around for a while and probably makes the most sense on paper as to why it's the cult that it is. Even though some of them again take it to a whole new level, and that is nobody else but the Chronicler fans. Like Massacre, Chronicler fans would swear upon their own graves that he is the best thing to fall down from heaven and grace a microphone. If Chronicler hums, they clap. If Chronicler breathes, they inhale. And if Chronicler drops a song, even if it's the third one for the week, best believe it's going in their Infinite Law Boss playlist and they are listening. I don't know how these people still have functioning mental health, and hey, maybe they don't, because believe me when I tell you, and I am not exaggerating, I have literally seen people whose daily playlist is only Chronicler, back to back to back to back, every single day. If this is not some type of addiction, I don't know what is. But if you think the music is helping you and you feel like listening to Empty for the 20th time today instead of going to therapy is a good decision, then you do you, I guess. One thing I will say though is that Chronicler is extremely consistent, and unlike any artist I've ever seen in life except maybe Juice WRLD, he has the ability to live in the studio and make hit songs back to back to back straight off the top of his brain, and do this multiple times per day. This is another universe of talent, and if every song someone releases is of a certain standard, of course the fans are gonna keep coming back for more. But there is one fan base that defies this rule altogether. A fan base that, despite increasingly subpar quality of music, garbage treatment from the artist, and reason after reason after reason to not support the person, they are still the loudest, proudest, and by far most insufferable individuals in the entire dancehall community. And since you all know exactly who I'm talking about, I don't even need to say that it's the Alkaline fans. Now listen, if you watch this channel, you know that I have always enjoyed Alkaline's music, but the levels of unquestionable meat riding, utter dick eating that I have seen on social media need to be addressed. I will be the first person to say that since 2021, almost everything Alkaline has dropped, with a few exceptions, has been questionable. At least Vybz Kartel had the excuse that he was in prison, and that maybe he's getting older so he's not really in touch with what the youth want to hear anymore. But there is absolutely no reason that a guy who has barely reached the age of 30 should be so far out of touch with the culture. This man continues time after time after time again to give us nothing, and yet at the slightest mention of his name, even when his name has not actually even been mentioned at all, they still defend him like their life depends on it. Even with the garbage interview that he released where he sounded significantly less funny, less confident, and quite frankly somehow less intelligent than when he was just the hungry kid that we once respected, there were genuinely people who believed with their entire chest that this nigga intentionally botched the interview on purpose and made a fool out of himself just so that we could talk about it, as if it was some kind of genius master plan. And when I called this out on the channel, despite the fact that I have vocally supported Alkaline before, look what this nigga decides to comment under my video. And I quote, "Remember, alkaline is the substance God put into our body to create spit, so therefore you need alkaline in your mouths." Of course, people will always have something to say about the hashtag data boss, mask emoji, finger emoji. The medicus mumes taleno sadesio. Shut the up, nigga. Me never see this yet. If this man farted, you would think it was a master plan. Because newsflash, you know what else would have been talked about even more than a garbage interview? An artist who hasn't done an interview in 10 years doing one and having it actually go well, and having viral clips still circling months later. You know who else did that? This guy. Because unlike Alkaline, as much as he might not be as good as he once was when he was younger, one thing you can't deny is that he never lost his love for the game. And I will always love Alkaline's old music. That version of him is probably still one of my most respected artists to this day. But the fans who defend his current actions have to be #1 on the cult list, because even if you went to Backroad with 100 grand in your pocket, you could not pay for this level of dick sucking. But speaking of Alkaline and how he even gained this fan base in the first place by clashing with Vybz Kartel and dominating 2016, click the video on your screen right now to learn the story of exactly how he did that. And of course, as always, the dancehall has been decoded.